I see a lot of familiar names in the attendees list today, but for those of you I haven't met, my name is Darren Redies, and I'm the Director of Pre-Sales and Solution Design at the Answer Company. I'm one of the old timers here, though I try not to emphasize the old part too much. I joined the Answer Company in 1999. Some of you I've been working with since I first joined, supporting your Platinum for Windows installation. Others I got to know assisting you with your Mass 500 system. More recently, I've worked with some of you on Sage X3. And there are those of you where there's been 2 out of 3 of those products in your own history. My presentation today poses the question, have you outgrown your ERP? At past events, I've talked about what to do when this happens. When I was approached to talk about this subject for Propel 2021, I thought it would be good to look at another side of this. Specifically, how do you know whether or not your company has in fact outgrown your current solution? Sometimes this can sneak up on you little by little, just like the frog in the pot with the temperature slowly rising. As I've had the opportunity to work with you over the years, I've seen this happen repeatedly. Sometimes we're closely working with you and we can let you know when we see it happening. But at other times, you might not need a lot of assistance and are completely self-sufficient. Then you need to be watching for things that might be putting your operational efficiencies in jeopardy. Ultimately, this comes down to how much pain are you feeling and is it worth the effort to move to the next level? Many times we can work with you within the constraints of your current system to find opportunities to scale up and increase efficiencies. However, there are those times when you need to move onwards and upwards to the next tier. Here are my top 5 signs that you may have outgrown your current system. Number 1. You're using more than 90% of the available functionality within your current system. This one is a bit counterintuitive. Many times over the years, I've had people tell me, it feels like we're only using 50, 60, 70% of the system. There's so much more that it can do that we're not using. I know they're telling me this like it's a problem, but really the opposite is true. And that's because you always need room to grow. And no system is going to be completely in step with what you need unless you build it yourself. Even if we're talking about 2 companies in exactly the same industry, their needs are going to be slightly different because they each have different ways of competing in the marketplace. So the functionality you're going to use is going to be different as well. What's important is that there's always more available for you to use as you grow. If you're using everything available, it's going to be challenging to find new efficiencies as you encounter new challenges. Number 2, you've been blindsided or had a near miss. These can be really scary. When they happen, they often trigger a review and are a clear indicator that something is wrong. These issues could be something like inventory counts with large corrections. I've been into companies where the inventory corrections at year end are into the 7-figure range. If I was the CEO and saw a correction like this, I sure would be questioning our controls. Wildly fluctuating revenues or margins. There are always ups and downs, but when things start swinging around widely, it makes you wonder, shouldn't we have seen this coming? Was there something we could have done if we were aware of it sooner? If you don't have access to meaningful and timely information, it's hard to make course corrections quickly enough to keep your ship from floundering in the squalls. And missed deadlines. Just like the fluctuations in revenues and margins, getting these little dandies appearing causes a lot of gray hairs. If you're missing project deadlines, shipping deadlines, procurement deadlines, it's worth asking, is this because we just don't have a way to monitor these things? Number 3, you've stretched the system into a Frankenstein. Now, I want to point out that at the beginning of this presentation, I said that often we can work within your current framework to find new efficiencies. Sometimes this means bringing in a third-party add-on or doing a customization. These can be a great way to leverage a system. However, there's times when it goes too far. You can tell it's becoming a Frankenstein when the value of the system is no longer from the actual ERP. You get to the point that the system that is enabling the growth is the add-ons, and the core no longer really is doing anything for you. Add-ons are great at increasing the strength of a solution, but at its center, the ERP itself needs to be adding something. The number of add-ons or customizations makes upgrades difficult or impossible. It's the fear of this that sometimes keeps people from even exploring add-ons or customizations, and it's a healthy fear to some degree. I've seen where people are using a 10-year-old version of software because upgrading was going to cost almost as much as the original implementation. So not only are you not getting any of the new functionality being released by the publisher, but you're potentially opening yourself up to security risks by staying on an outdated platform. Integrations frequently break. Even if things were pretty rock solid when those integrations were first created, an ever-growing number of connections as well as growing data volumes can start to stretch these beyond their limits. And that's when the finger pointing can begin. It can't be our integration. It's in place in dozens of installations. But is it in place with the other 15 integrations that you're using? Number 4, the user interface is affecting your ability to bring in new people. I'm not saying you should change ERPs just because the new one has prettier screens, far from it. I'll always advocate for function over form, but you do reach a point where an old system can start to have real financial impact. Training is difficult. As you bring in new people and work on bringing them up to speed, what does that look like? How much time and money are you spending to get those individuals working effectively in the system? Users are dissatisfied and complain about the interface. Let's face it, if you're on a green screen terminal, the user interface is going to start to be an issue as your employees are trying to do their job. It's hard to learn. It often requires a bunch of specific keystrokes, and it can be frustrating to your people. At a certain point, this starts to make it hard to attract and retain talent. The cost of recruitment and training needs to factor into your equation if people are leaving because of your systems. Remote access difficulties. So this used to be a nice to have. It was kind of in this category of having something that was pleasant, something employees like to have. During the past year, this took on a whole new meaning, and really it could have its own slide now. In the past year, we saw cases where having remote access became the only way you could run your business. Some of you attending today switched systems because it was too hard to set up remote access to your old system. Hopefully we're nearing the end of the pandemic, but we got a clear indicator of the importance of being able to access your system from places other than your office. And number 5, you're serving the system instead of it serving you. People think about humans serving the machines in movies like The Terminator or Matrix, but unfortunately, we see it in real life, where you start expending time and energy because the system needs it. Unfortunately, this can also happen when your system is too big. Having your system right-sized but with room to grow helps you avoid this. Signs that this is happening can include when getting data into the system costs more than the value it provides. So take a look at what you do with the data you're gathering. What are the decisions you make based on it? What value does that have to your organization? Now, take a look at what it takes to either gather or extract that information. How many hours are being spent to get that data? Often, improvements are available to both capture the data more easily as well as to turn it into meaningful information. And sometimes the system is the roadblock rather than the tool to overcome obstacles. If you can see better and more efficient ways of doing things, but it's just not possible to do in your current system, it's worth a conversation with your account manager. We've been streamlining business processes for a lot of years, so there's a good chance we've seen it before and can guide you to a solution. So now that you've recognized you've outgrown your system, what do you do? As I said at the beginning, we've done entire presentations on this topic in the past. Calling your account manager is a good next step. Our methodology is to conduct a thorough examination of your business processes. We start by defining the issues. So share with us where you're feeling the pain, and then we can diagnose what's causing it by reviewing the processes, looking for relationships and duplications, and mapping things out. I recently heard a consultant refer to this as straightening the cow path to guide the cow to the barn on a more direct route. I personally usually refer to this as getting rid of the spaghetti, because when you start mapping out what's being done and where the information is going, there's sometimes lines all over the page, some leading nowhere. Our goal is to streamline by simplifying, creating simple and clear flows of information. It's important to start with the core. One of the mistakes I've seen people make is to try to map out everything and list out every single detail. All that does is to dilute the issues and confuse anyone trying to determine what needs to be done. The key is to focus on the problem areas and processes that you see as being unique. Every company needs an age balance report and every system provides one, so there's no need to put that down. But if you automatically send invoices and statements to your customers, even if that's working well right now, you want to write that down. If the new system didn't have that at go live, how much of a problem would that be? Finally, complete the equation, because ultimately this comes down to simple math. Are the financial benefits you can achieve greater than what it's going to cost to implement? Not every process should be automated, even if you can. Don't spend $20,000 for a $500 problem. Keeping some things manual, even if it's suboptimal, can make sense if the problem isn't yet big enough to warrant action. Does the pain of remaining the same outweigh the pain of change?